delighted to be joined by Cora Staunton. Cora, how are you?
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Not too bad. Dennis has laid down the gauntlet there already. He already thinks the Dubs are back, and sure, everyone in your neck of the woods thinks Mayo are back.
Yeah, I think Mayo will take that though. If Mayo can put the pressure back on Dublin and put them as favourites for the All Ireland, but I think it's very hard to probably keep things on a calm keel here, especially after the performance yesterday, and I suppose the performance right throughout the league. It's been a very good league for Kevin McStay, obviously new manager in, and yeah, I suppose that was topped off yesterday by I wouldn't say a brilliant performance yesterday, but a good enough performance to get them over the line.
They often say, Cora, that it's difficult for a manager to come in. You mightn't see a stamp of a manager on a team straight away. But Kevin has really hit the ground running. They play a nice style. I think yesterday was one of their best victories in the sense of probably, plenty of different things didn't go right, maybe as opposed to in other league games. But he's really hit the ground running. It's been the perfect start, really.
Yeah, it has. And I think, he initially came in and put his own stamp on it in many different ways. And I suppose you have to look at Kevin has been trying to get that Mayo job for a long time. So he had his ideas and ways that he wanted to play. And I suppose you look at it, he brought in a lot of youth that was there before, but probably didn't get an opportunity. Jack Coyne, Sam Callahan in particular in that back line. But then it was the move of, Conor Loftus to centre back, Gerard O'Connor back out to midfield. Obviously, Aidan, the big talking point into full forward. And then, he's the likes of Ryan O'Donoghue, who didn't play very much last year, who was injured for majority of the year. Tommy Conroy, who's back from injury as well. Adding Killian O'Connor, who was there last year, but probably wasn't fully fit. So, yeah, he's put his own stamp, whether it's bringing in young players. Of Colin Reap, obviously a huge one. That was, man of the match yesterday, a new goalkeeper. So he's either brought in new players, moved old players into different positions, and then he's had the luxury, I suppose, of the likes of Ryan and Tommy Conroy and Killian in particular, who's been injured for majority last year or not back to full fitness. So yeah, he's really put his stamp on it, and it's great to see they're playing a really exciting brand of football at times, and I suppose that's what Mayo supporters love.
You mentioned Colin Reap there. Might as well chat about the potential yellow card, black card, red card incident. What did you make of it yourself in real time?
Yeah, in real time in Croker yesterday, I even thought it was a harsh yellow card in real time. But again, you're a long way away from play. I suppose then watching it back on TV last night, it was very difficult for him to move out of position, to be honest. He was coming at full flight. I suppose the only thing that probably stopped or that doesn't look the best is when I think it's his left leg is stuck out. That's the only thing. But I think it would have been a very harsh black card to give, and in real time for the referee to be able to give that, you can see why he didn't. So yeah, it's on the verge of probably to me a free kick, maybe to a yellow card. So. I know Porrick Joyce was very aggrieved after the match, and is that mind games going into a couple of weeks' time as well? Who knows? But I thought he was superb. I think I had said it to a couple of people around me probably 40 minutes into the match that he'd be man of the match. Just his free taking, his 45s, his goal saving, just everything. He was just very calm in goal, and has been right throughout the league. People really haven't talked that much about him, but. He's a newbie into the panel, obviously with Rob Heaney there, David Clark in the past. He's really stepped up and done well for Mayo right throughout the league.
I didn't think it was anything like, remember the famous German goalkeeper Harald Schumacher, the time he took out Battisson in the 1982 World Cup. He absolutely cleaved them, and he actually turned his body. There's actually someone from Mayo, Cora has it, I don't have it offhand now, but they actually broke down the incident into 4 still pictures, and it looks like Reap's leg only comes across upon contact from Johnny Heaney. That's what it looks like from the pictures. I think it was probably a yellow, and I think it was fair enough. I don't think he deserved to see red. I think probably what Porrick Joyce is most aggrieved about is the fact that he lost a player out of it, and he had to come off a couple of minutes later. That meant Comer coming into play, but that puts Johnny Heaney back, maybe going into championship now. He could be, I don't know, it could be a very bad dead leg is probably what it looked like, but I'd say that's nearly more what he's aggrieved. If the ball had went into the net and the player hadn't to come off, I think it would have been okay, that he was just dished out a yellow or whatever,
Yeah, and I did see that on social media this morning. That was Cormac O'Malley had that broken down, all right.
Yeah.
And it looks like that. Yeah, it was probably, as I say, a yellow card. And he obviously gave the free kick in, but yeah, it would have been a very harsh black. And as I said, that's very hard for a referee to give. That's probably a little bit away from play. And if you're given a black card, you have to be sure that that's what you're given. If it's the right call. So. Yeah, I just think, I suppose it was spoken about last night on TV, and there was calls for a black card. I even heard a red card. So, I think that's probably Johnny Heaney coming off early because he's a key player for Galway, and bringing Comer on that early. I suppose they probably want to have him on more later in the game, more as an impact sub. But overall, Mayo will be happy, I suppose, if you're to look at a couple of things that they really need to work on. Galway had 4 goal chances. And Mayo were probably wide open on a couple of occasions, and only for Reap's heroics. That's probably a worry that Kevin will look at. I think we'd probably 1 goal chance that Conor Gleeson saved, and I suppose it's probably going back to that. We probably just need to get a little bit more scores from play from our forward line. I think I think it was Jordan Flynn, James Carr that kicked points from play, but everything either came from frees or marks or from outside our forward line. So that's just been picky. If you want to look at the couple of 5% to improve for championship, I'm sure there are things Kevin McStay is looking at already this morning.
Did you think the referee was more sympathetic towards Aidan Noche than most referees have been? Because I almost think when you're that big that, I don't know if referees expect you to be able to look after yourself a bit better. But he was fouled on nearly every occasion. He got a free yesterday. But there's several games, and I'm thinking back to even particularly the 2015 semi-final when he was on Philly McMahon, where it's almost like, oh, he's a big lad, he should be able to deal with that almost. Whereas if it was someone else, they'd be given frees in. I thought the referee kind of blew when there were frees, but a lot of time in recent years, I don't think he's been getting calls like that.
Yeah, I did. I actually said it at the game as well to someone that, Jesus, the referee has been very nice to Aidan today. Because normally he doesn't get them frees, and I suppose the biggest thing is 4 of them frees that he got were all scoreable. Now we didn't score them all, and they're all in scoreable positions. So I don't know, is that a thing that now he's playing deeper and inside, that the referees are more aware of the fouling rather than if it's out around midfield that kind of let things go. It's interesting. I don't know. Will it come to the heat of the championship? Will some of them frees be kind of let go? Referees are probably a little bit more lenient and seem to let things go. But yeah, no, he certainly, I did think at the time, but when you look back at the game and all of the frees were there. So yeah, as Mayo supporters, we'll take that all the time. But I think Aidan has been a big, massive plus for us in the league this year, his performances. So obviously Kevin is doing something, getting the right out from. He was little bit different. Like yesterday, he didn't play that traditional full forward position. He was around the ground a lot more, but he looks really fit and up for the fight. And really probably re-energized. And that's a great plus for Mayo football.
What do you make of, Cora, the fact, a week between a league final and championship? It was described in our paper and the Independent this morning as, been in purgatory, because it's like, a big game a week before a big championship game. It's almost like a poison chalice almost. If you go for it and pick up injuries or whatever, it's kind of an awkward spot. But just a couple of quick quotes from Kevin McStay on it. He just said, I'm relieved, quite satisfied, delighted. And there's a part of me saying, cool down now, because we have to get ready for next Sunday. That's just the pity of it, the timing of it, but that's not anybody can do anything about. But overall, I'm just delighted. Yeah, it's great to come up with to win a national title, so I'm very pleased. It's an awkward kind of a position where, like, they can't even really enjoy it too much because. And I saw a tweet from Edwin McGreal which said 7 days from the Roscommon game is worth remembering. An incredible stat. The last 3 times Mayo won the National Football League, they were beaten in Connacht by the Rossies, 2019, 2001, and all the way back in 1970. It's an incredible stat. Might not be relevant, but shows Rossies' ability to ambush. Like, it's such a difficult one to marry the enjoyment of winning a national title with, okay, we need to get our feet back down the ground straight away. We have this ambush coming in a week's time.
Yeah, personally, I think it's wrong. There should be at least 2 weeks, if not 3 weeks, between a national final and your first round of championship. I suppose if you look at players there, it's their first time possibly appearing in Croke Park, first time winning a national title, Colin Reap being one. There's a lot of other young lads there as well, and you just don't get the enjoyment to go out and celebrate it, and that's lost now. You can't say in 2 weeks' time or even a week's time we play Roscommon and Kevin lets them, have a night out, that celebration is then gone. The national title, it's not that it's forgotten about, but they move on after, probably they go back to training probably tomorrow night. So yeah, I think it's wrong by the GAA. I think the fixtures can certainly be tweaked to make it why Mayo need to be out on the 9th of April. I don't know, there's only a Connacht quarter cup final and Connacht semi-final. I think it just could be moved better, so yeah, and I do think for Kevin McStoy, I think he will be worried a little bit going into it, but that's okay, because he'll have the players, well tuned in. But 7 days after winning a national title, the high of coming kind of in Croke Park, 45,000, and then into McHale Park, it's not that Mayo have everything to lose, but it's really Roscommon have nearly just a go at Mayo, because Mayo are going to win as big favourites now. And yeah, it's probably a little bit of a worry that can you get that performance week in, week out, especially 7 days, and can you get up to the pitch of the game again? And I think I read a couple of things on Twitter this morning. Mayo can change things up and bring players in. Kevin is not known for that. I know, bar the Monaghan League game, he's kept really with the same core group of players, and even his substitutes bringing on, like, he's not using 5 subs all the time, and if he is, they're all quite near the end of the game. So he'll stick with the main players. Mayo went into that yesterday with probably nearly a fully fit squad, bar into Heaney and Killian O'Connor. So they're the only 2 that really has to come back in, and I think by all accounts both of them will be okay for next Sunday, and could have been risked for yesterday, but obviously the important game is next Sunday.
Surely there's no scenario where we should be punishing winners or punishing high-achieving teams. Like, you're actually punishing teams for getting to a league final, which just, to me, seems a bit bizarre.
Yeah, and I just think it seems even more bizarre in a province where, we've, 5 teams. And we're trying to get a Connacht Championship ran off on the 9th of April, started on the 9th of April, where other provinces that have a lot more teams, they're pushing it out, further weeks. So that's where I suppose the struggle is. So yeah, I 100% agree. Why, punish winners? Sometimes, you probably look at the start of the year. Kevin, I'm sure, was it a benefit for Mayo to get to the league final and compete in it a week out from championship? Obviously, he thought it was, and especially a first-year manager in that, he wants to get his stamp on the team and, get them, humming, and he has right throughout the league. So yeah, I just think it's madness, and I don't know if that's, a Connacht GAA or if it's national GAA, that's doing them fixtures. But by all accounts, there should be always 2 weeks, at least minimum of 2 weeks between the National League and when championship starts.
No, without a doubt. Just to chat briefly about your near neighbours in Sligo. That was a great win on Saturday evening, Division 4 final. It was kind of billed as the battle across McGlen, with the 2 managers been from Cross and former teammates at Club and County, Bushy McConville in Wicklow and Tony McEntee in Sligo. But great, like real emotional kind of scene a year on from the really sad passing of Red Oak Murphy. That was a real emotional scene on Saturday, and you could tell how much it meant to the squad and to the people of Sligo to get a national title up in Croke Park and to honour him.
Yeah, and I suppose you have to remember these teams, the Sligos, the Wicklows, and I was even hoping, when Leitrim are in the kind of the last day mix with Andy Moran being manager, that that they get to a league final, because he's done a massive job down there. That's their big stage. That's their day out. Like, obviously, they'll compete in Connacht, but they know the chance of winning, a Connacht title are very slim, where the chance of winning a Division 4 and moving into Division 3 is their real goal. Yeah, I watched that match. Obviously, the weather didn't help. The 2 goals certainly helped Sligo on the day, and, they were deserving winners. But I thought it was poignant, especially when Niall Murphy received his man of the match and spoke afterwards. That the way he addressed about Red Oak, and being a year on to that day, was amazing, and you could see many captions on social media afterwards speaking about it. So yeah, it's tough on them boys, but that's a win for Sligo. Division 1 title, moving up to Division 2 last year, and that's their stepping stone. For them, the league is everything, and championship, whatever they get out of it. While it's a little bit different in Connacht this year, with Mayo, Galway and Roscommon all being on one side as a draw. So there's a huge chance for Sligo to get to a Connacht final and play in the Sam Maguire. It's either going to be possibly them or Leitrim. But yeah, it's a huge chance for one of them teams there to kind of compete in that. But it's probably going to be another 2 or 3 steps up, from obviously a Division 4 title.
Luke Towie had some lovely words from about Red Rogue after. I think he was a Sligo teammate of his, but I think he was also a DCU teammate. He just said, for Red Rogue and his anniversary being today, I know personally there was massive emotion. That is something you have to contain a small bit when you're playing. But I've been thinking about it all week. He's constantly on my mind. As a panel going into this final, he was mentioned. He was a focus. I knew Red Rogue, and I knew the person he was, and he would have wanted us to go and win that match for the people of Sligo and give it everything. I think we did that. I think the point from that is Red Oak had everything, and he should have been out there with us today. He was an unbelievable player with real talent. I do feel he was with us in some sense, and he certainly gave the players a bit of his talent today. That win was for him. He was a friend of mine also, who I think of constantly. I know there are some great services out there, and if anyone is even feeling down or needs help, or even just to talk to someone, I really hope that they take advice and do that. There's really really powerful words there from his teammate Luke Towie. I don't know if you saw much of the Division 3 final, but just a quick word on Cavan. They were obviously beaten in the Tailteann Cup final last year by Westmeath and Croke Park. They were beaten by Fermanagh in the final stages of the round robin Division 3 as well. But they got revenge. Comfortable enough 16 points to 1-7 win. There's a lot of interesting stories in Ulster this year, Cora, isn't there? With you have Conor Laverty in Down. You have Fermanagh. I know they were beaten at the weekend, but they've been flying under Kieran Donnelly. You have Mickey Graham and Cavan. You have Donegal in a bit of disarray. You have Derry kind of high flying. You have Tyrone trying to bounce back. It's a fascinating prospect. I know you'd say that Connacht is the best province now based on league rankings with 1, 2 and 3, but Ulster still has a massive amount of intrigue.
Yeah, I think Ulster is the one province where anyone really on any given day can beat anyone. You're probably not going to see a huge upset in Connacht where Sligo maybe beats a Mayo or a Galway, but you certainly could see an upset in the north. I think there's so many different intriguing battles there. As you said, Fermanagh, probably the league form has been great right throughout, and I think a little bit disappointed in Croke Park, if I'm honest, against Cavan. Cavan were very comfortable winners, and probably when you look at Division 3 all, to start the league, we're a team that are probably always going to come out on top. But yeah, they have some form now going into to the championship. Yeah, Donegal obviously is a huge worry. We still don't know where they're at. Their last league outing against Roscommon was so poor. But can they, have a little bit of a bounce back from what's happened? Armagh, I suppose the big talking point there is Rian O'Neill, and how long is he going to be out for? I know McGeaney isn't saying it's too long, but he's a huge focal point for that team. So it's really wide open. Derry, have been the form team of the whole league, them and Mayo, and they were very disappointing yesterday against Dublin when it came to it. So are they now a little bit, are they a little bit gone back? And then you have Tyrone, who've been kind of very mixed bag in the league, but have put a good run of form for the last couple of league games. So it's difficult, to see who'll come out of there. I suppose it's probably Tyrone or Derry that are probably still favourites, but there's a chase and pack, and as I said, anyone could create a shock on any given day. So yeah, I do believe that the Ulster Championship is certainly the most interesting out of them all, where it's a lot closer than most other championships.
Cora, you obviously made the decision in recent days to call time on your AFLW career. I remember chatting to Alan McConnell, who kind of helped to recruit you to the Giants. Just talk me through. I saw various quotes flying around over the weekend. It was something you agreed to do, but it wasn't necessarily something that you were 100% sure you were going to do, I'd say, until you were actually out there.
No, 100% not. And anyone that knows me, I get asked to do a number of things, and I'm always like, yeah, no problem, I'll do it. And I always kind of it's in, the back of your mind, that's 2 or 3 months away. That's a long time. But so that was kind of the AFL. I, obviously got a call from him to see was I interested. His son came over and eventually went out for a trial. And even at that stage, yeah, I'd said yes. But, I wasn't used to signing contracts for sport or anything like that. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I just want to get back home to Ireland. We're in a Connacht club final the week after. And we had obviously a run with Carnacon, and I suppose all my focus was on that. And then, yeah, God, the All-Ireland happened. We won it. And the next thing, 48 hours later, I was meant to be flying to Australia. And even in that time, I was like, God, what am I doing? after winning the Club All Ireland, I should be celebrating. And now I'm like in my head for them 2 days going, what am I doing? Is there any way I can get out of this? And
were you seriously thinking of that? Like were you actually seriously thinking about not getting on the plane? Because you're in the middle of something where, do you know what I mean? You're in the middle of something where you're just loving life, one of the greatest achievements you'll ever achieve. You've signed up to do something and it's completely alien to you as well. You're going into a different world, different sport, different environment, everything.
Yeah, I was. I can tell you. The club initially wanted me to fly the Sunday night after the game to Australia. But now, put in context, I'd already probably missed 6 weeks of pre-season at this stage for AFL, and probably even a little bit more. It could have been up to 8, because I told them I wouldn't go over till the club championship was finished. I told them I wouldn't go over, and sure, then this happens and they want me out the night of the All-Ireland final after we won. And then I'm like, no, you can't, like, you have to celebrate these things. You know, I was captain at the time. And then I suppose 48 hours later, like, Tuesday. And I'm kind of like, is there any chance we can push it to Thursday? And I think at this stage, their patience is probably wearing a bit thin with me. And I was just like, okay, Tuesday. And I suppose this is all in the lead up to the All-Ireland as well. Like, this is during the week of the All-Ireland, which is probably not the best thing either for me. So, yeah, I remember being in Dublin Airport waiting to board that flight on the Tuesday evening, sitting in a corner on the floor, probably severely hungover from 2 days out. Not even sure if I had everything put in my bag, packed right. And yeah, that plane journey, because you have so much time to think in, 2 flights, 24 hours flying. And yeah, I just wasn't in a good way at all, because obviously, as I said, I wasn't in a good mindset after 2 days being out, and I hurt my ribs in that game as well, and just everything. I was like, what am I doing? So didn't get much sleep on that flight, and then arrived out on that Thursday morning. My brother picked me up from the airport, so I went to his house, and again, I was just exhausted, obviously jet lagged, and I had a call from Al to see had I arrived in, and that probably arrived in, I think, 7 or 8 o'clock, and he said, one of the girls will pick you up at your brother's house at 1 o'clock for training. So I'd never met this girl, so I had a 40-minute journey to train with this girl that I'd never met. Still slag her now, I'm still very close with her, and she brought me into the changing rooms and showed me where my locker was and just left me there. Didn't introduce me to anyone, and I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, please someone come and talk to me. And yeah, eventually they did. And yeah, I was done an interview during the week, the first month of that. Yeah, I really didn't enjoy. It was over Christmas. Just finding a struggle, obviously, with the training. I was injured. I had a rib injury, as I said, and the heat. It was like 40-degree summer out there. And the first kind of, I'd say even 6 weeks. Then we had a practice match. And then everything kind of changed from there. Played the practice match. Hadn't a clue what I was doing in the practice match, and just got the ball, and I kicked two good enough goals on the day. How I kicked them, I don't know. It was definitely pure fluke. And I think everyone was like, oh, wow. And yeah, things from there just changed automatically. I suppose that helped my confidence, but it also, my teammates could see that I could play a bit as well. And yeah, they could see how hard I was training. So yeah, from there, I suppose I changed because I really enjoyed the game, even though it was manic, not a clue what I was doing. And obviously then from there, enjoyed it, went and played that season and continued to play for 6 seasons in total then.
Yeah, and I think you ended up as the second highest scorer in the competition's history, and obviously the Giants' top scorer of all time. Just going on, talking about that first 6 weeks, I can't imagine what that was like, in the sense of you've been going into a Carnacon dressing room or a Mayo dressing room and always know, like, you know everybody, and you know everybody inside out. And it's obviously played with, a round ball, which you've been playing with since you were, knee high to a grasshopper. Then you're going, the far side of the world to play a game you'd never played before with this funny oval shaped ball with people that you don't know. Like, I don't know, did you come in anywhere close to leaving at any stage in that 6 weeks, or are you just too determined and too dogged and too stubborn? Stubbornness can be a great thing at times.
Yeah, I don't think I ever came close to leaving. I think if we were allowed home for Christmas, I'd only been out probably 3 weeks before that. So if I had any opportunity to go home for Christmas that time, which I wasn't going to get because we only get a small Christmas break, maybe like 7 days, and to fly the other side of the world, that's probably not possible. But if I had a chance at all to get home, I think I wouldn't have come back. But no, I suppose it was just everything. Yeah, I was used to, as I said, being in setups where I knew everyone. And I'm, in off the field, I'm actually quite a shy person. I wouldn't like be the one that be talking to everyone. So I need people to come and talk to me, and then once I get to know them, I'm fine. So, and also the Australians for the first while really struggled to understand me. They just thought I spoke way too fast. So I was like, I'd be talking to them, but they couldn't comprehend. Probably they'd only get me a couple of words of the sentence. So at times they didn't really, not that they didn't want to talk to me, but they just couldn't understand me. So eventually one of them said, "We can't understand what you're saying. You're going to have to slow down." And it was funny, even media after that, like one of the media interviews, like I had to like speak really slowly. And I do, even when I'm on to Australians now, I know myself, I have to, just slow down. So things like that, as I said, training, getting into that level of training. The training was fine physicality wise and all that, but it's just the heat. Sydney had one of its worst summers, and we train out west, which means the temperatures are even higher. So you could be in the city and it's 36 degrees. It's always 5 degrees hotter out west. So you're talking about like 40-degree heat, probably 96% humidity. And I was like, I can't, like, I'm not want to train in the heat here when it's 20 degrees. So all of that, like, I just used to train, and then when I come home from training, I wasn't fit to do anything. It was just sit down on the couch or go to bed for a couple of hours. Like I'd say half the time I was sunstroke or dehydrated. And yeah, so it did cross my mind a few times, but nothing major. I was just too stubborn. And then when I got really into it and really build a relationship with the coach, or I had his head wrecked, we were out kicking every minute of every chance that I could get to try and make myself better. And I built up a great relationship with him, and eventually he just kept helping me improve. But it was all the extras. It wasn't anything to do with the 4 or 5 days we were training. It was all the morning sessions or the afternoon sessions I was doing with him. So I really enjoyed that, the challenge of trying to get better all the time. And every session I go, he'd be teaching me something, and the next session I'd want to have it nailed and got good at. So yeah, I just really enjoyed that part of trying to make myself better. And I suppose in sport I probably haven't had that challenge. Where I played rugby for a couple of years, I suppose with Gaelic football, you're okay at it. So you just while you're always trying to improve a little bit, where in AFL you're trying to improve dramatically. The improvements you see all the time, where you mightn't see them in Gaelic football because you've been playing it for so long.
What was the best part of it all, Cora? Even culturally wise, did you have any unbelievable experiences even outside of the pitch? Was there anything in particular that stands out, something that you never would have got to experience if you hadn't made the move?
Yeah, there's loads of things. Obviously, from like I've travelled around Australia, and that's just solely from matches. You're on an airplane every week, if not every second week, traveling. Whether you're going to Perth or you're going to Queensland or Adelaide, wherever. We were then in the COVID times. We had to hub for a while, so we were 8 weeks on the road. So we got to see some amazing parts of Australia. Obviously, we'd quarantine, which certainly wasn't a highlight. Two quarantines of 15 days in a hotel. I suppose for me, because I always loved sport and the aspect of professional sport, I was lucky enough the first 2 years I was over there. Our coach was also at the time involved in the men's program. So I got to kind of shadow him for a good part of it and go around and follow our men, train with the men. So go into training sessions and just like basically follow the forward group around, and sometimes get involved in drills, and see all the aspect of, these fully professional players that have been playing for a long time. Then I used to travel to matches. Nick Walsh, who got me over there at the start, was also still at the club. He was there for the first 2 years I was there. He was strength and conditioning coach there. So also I got to travel with him to games, and I used to get into the coaches' boxes. And to get into coaches' boxes and men's games over there is, sacred. You don't get in. It's so strict AFL wise, and they just don't want anyone in. Like they're just like, it's like a dressing room, it's the inner sanctum. So I got the opportunity a couple of times to sit in the coaches' men's box, AFL men's box, and Leon Cameron was the coach at the time, and just to experience professional sport at its full height, as in the stress and like how coaches behave and react, and how stressful each game, and because it's their jobs, their careers are on the line, coaching, and just how stressed they are in that moment, even when things are going well, like, and just how a coach's box run. There's five coaches in there, between a head coach, an assistant coach, and 3 line coaches. There's stats people. It's just it's just mayhem for probably that 2.5 hours they're in there. But just, the way they relay messages, coaches, it's just the way it's done. It's done very old school. They go down on a phone to a runner, and a runner goes out and gives the message. Just the whole intrigue of a coach's box, and the insights into professional sport, and the stress of professional sport that it is on that head coach to get everything right week in, week out. Yeah, I just loved it. It was amazing. I was like, I wonder, is this like in any other sport? I wonder, is this like NFL or so I was just lucky for that kind of first 2 years that I was there. I got really good experiences following the men's team around. And even when I broke my leg, because I rehabbed my leg a lot of the time when the men were in, and, I was off doing, they were just things that you never think. They used to do gymnastics, I think was every Tuesday or Wednesday. So they go over, there's a gymnastics centre across the road from where we train, because we're in the Olympic Park, so all the sports are out there. And they were over like doing gymnastics. And I was like, what's this relevance to the game? But then you see what the relevance is. So I just think that thinking outside the box in numerous sports, I just love that insight. It'd be like spending a week, I suppose, with like Manchester United or something like that. The insights you get are just amazing.
That's fascinating. I'd imagine you have a taste to go into coaching or management at some stage in the not too distant future.
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm in with Galway Camogie helping out at the moment, and while my title is a performance coach, I'm not really comfortable with that title. I'm a kind of jack of all trades, to be honest. When I go in, I'm doing a little bit of coaching with our forward line at the moment, which I really enjoy. I've never played Camogie, but the principles of all sports are nearly exactly the same. So yeah, working a good bit with our forward line, and I'm bringing stuff obviously from AFL across that I've learned coaching wise, and obviously from Gaelic football. And then, I'm working with the girls, individually, one-on-one, to try and maximise their performance collectively, kind of helping our manager, Cathal Murray, deal with players, individually, one-on-one, if there's any issue. So I'm really, like, I went in first going, oh God, I'm not sure, Cathal, if this is for me, when I went in January. And even the first kind of couple of weeks, I didn't know any of them, trying to get to know them and all that. But yeah, in the last kind of month or so, since games really started kicking in, I'm really enjoying it. Just the things you learn from individual players and from females playing the game is just intriguing, and trying to find solutions to different things, whether it's player low on confidence, self-esteem, trying to identify which player sometimes needs his arm around his shoulder, but the other player could be motivated by probably wouldn't say giving out to them, but like by telling them that they could do things better. So I'm intrigued by learning how each individual is motivated, and I'm getting there. And I'm just really enjoying the setup and even the coaching part of it. We've 3 coaches there, and even watching them go, you're learning so much from them. So I love picking up nuggets and that you can bring in. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. So probably down the line I'll have aspirations to do that, but I suppose I need to do a little bit of an apprentice first and learn a bit more.
Just the last one, Cora. I think there's the guts of 30 Irish women scheduled to play AFLW next year. I think one of the Mackins from Armagh was one of the most recent names. Is this cutting across the LGFA a lot now, where you're looking at the guts of 30 players? Do the LGFA need to maybe look at structuring their season a little bit different, or what do you think? Is it at a point of serious worry for the LGFA?
I wouldn't say serious worry, but I'd say it's getting there. Now, I've read a couple of things again on social media, and I think Maurice Brosnan had something, a lot of these girls didn't play beforehand. Dana Finn going out, he said Aileen Gilroy, and that there's a lot of girls, doing both at the moment. Yeah, and I take his point. There's a lot of girls that are, playing with their county and going back over across, but that's only sustainable for a certain length of time. They're normally girls that are probably only a year or two, or have only decided to go out and then go out. But you see girls that go out and see that they really like the sport and want to get better at it, and their only way of getting better at it is by staying over there. And we've seen that the likes of Niamh Kelly, Grace Kelly, Sarah Rowe, Anya Tighe, Orla O'Dwyer, there's only a few, I could name more. They've all decided not to come back and play into County. Ash Mack in West Coast. So that's 6 or 7 that I've named. And then there's girls, they've come home and played a bit. Vicky Wall went out and done her pre-season a little bit earlier and is now back. That can't happen. That can happen probably for the next, season or 2, maybe 3. But the season every year there is going to get longer. You know, the Players Association, they are pushing that AFL women's will be fully professional by 2030, if not earlier. So that means it'll be a full-on competition like the men. So the men play, I think, 22 or 23 rounds at the moment, and 4 or 5 weeks of finals. So they could play up to 27 games, and they get a couple of months off. So that's the way eventually it's going to go. Clubs will demand more of players because they're contracted with them. Some clubs, you know, and Sinead Goldrick's probably the biggest, highest profile that didn't come back and play for Dublin this year. Clubs demand more of them and want them to stay. If you all have an injury, they'll expect you to stay over. You know, they might let you home for a 2-week holiday. So it is going to be a problem. It is draining ladies football. I know you have the likes of the Macken saying they'll play with Armagh, Ash Maloney, Anna Rose Kennedy, all of these. Yeah, that's their first year. But in 3 years' time, will they still be playing with Armagh and Tipperary? You know, unless they've left AFL, they probably won't. So I do think it's going to be a huge drain, and I think it's something the ladies football need to look at now. From the point of view, what's going to happen later? Because I can tell you, every day I have a message from someone asking me how they can get out, whether that girl could be 17, she could be 22, she could be 24. There's a huge demand from players. They see it, that they want to go out there now. So if that's the case, I know the AFL are going to come hard as well, and they're coming hard already, and they want more and more out there. So yeah, it's a worry for me, because if you look, even in maybe say next year, the year after, you don't have Vicky Wall, Aisling Maloney, Amy Macken, Niamh McLaughlin playing. You know, they're all former players of the year, and they're only 4. Is the championship or is ladies football worse off because you don't have your star players playing? I think it is. I think the product won't be as good as it could be with them in it. So I had a conversation with Tom Parsons around this yesterday, and I think it's to me the only answer is integration. Getting, you know, all the bodies under one. You know, I've spoken about this enough times, and as Tom said to me yesterday, getting a Division 1 ladies final on before Mayo and Mayo and Galway yesterday, get the ladies final on before it, or you know, whatever it might be. You know, you have in the news, you have all these girls going on into Australia, and at the same time you've Cavan ladies who you know, are on strike because they're not receiving. I think they wanted €30 car journey down from Dublin.
Oh, it's so basic, Cora. It's the most basic of basic requirements.
Why would you expect a girl? Why would you stay around for that when you're not being looked after? And it's not even looked after. They're simple things, whether you're looking for a couple of euro expenses because you're a student and you're in college and you can't afford to come down, or whether you're looking for good facilities or whatever it might be. And you go to Australia, you have all them on hand every day of the week. The resources over there are amazing facilities. And then you're getting paid in the top of it. But also you're young and free, and you're 22 and 23, and you're the other side of the world in beautiful weather. So yeah, it is a worry for me. I know people are saying, oh, you know, that some of these girls haven't played and this and that. But, you know, I spoke about this probably 4 or 5 years ago. The numbers would probably at about 50 now and higher if COVID didn't strike for 2 years, because in them 2 years, Irish couldn't get out. They couldn't recruit any Irish. So that stopped the numbers increasing. That numbers would be a lot higher now, only for COVID. So it is a worry for me. I think ladies football need to look at something dramatically, quickly, and see can they try and stop it in some regard. But it's going to be a hard thing, but it's something that they need to look at. And as I said, I know coming into the future, the AFL are you know, I've talked to the head of the AFL, the women's, Nicole Livingston, and they love their Irish players out there, and they want to see more and more of them come.
Okay, brilliant. Cora, thanks a million for your time. Just a quick comment in there from a viewer, the Shelman. Just a great interview. Cora is as hard as a diamond. I think we all echo that sentiment. I don't. You probably will pass it off and brush it away as modesty. But thanks a million for your time, and congratulations on an unbelievable playing career down under. You set the tone for all the ladies that have followed. Well done, and no doubt we'll talk again. Thanks a million, Michael. Take care. Thanks, Cora. Thanks a million. So that was brilliant. Great to have Cora Staunton there, Mayo football legend, AFLW legend as well. That's all we have time for on today's show. Thanks a million for joining us. We will be back on Thursday. We will have Eddie Brennan and Niall Moran teeing up the Division 1 National Hurling League final between Limerick and Tipperary. And we will chat to you on Thursday, folks. Thanks a million.